Hi everyone, Sothany Sick Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Toro y Moi record, Mahal. This is the 7th full-length album from Mr. Chaz under the Toro y Moi name, and one that sees him returning to a more psychedelic aesthetic with a full band of instrumentation, which is pretty significant because since the days of Chaz's initial chill wave hype, he has not really been one to repeat himself stylistically with one record after the next. His discography is building up to be a complete kaleidoscope of sounds and musical styles, but Mahal here delivers a refreshing version of some of the trippy textures that were laced into 2015's What For, one of my favorite records that Chaz has done so far. Though I think Mahal takes a completely different approach, as it doesn't really rely too much on light lead guitar melodies and lo-fi fuzz to get its point across. Instead, most of the tracks here have a much heavier emphasis on the rhythm section, which is constantly conjuring addictive grooves. There are multiple loud and standout bass lines across the track list here, also a powerful series of drum fills on the closer, which just showcase a side of Toro that I don't think is completely alien, but we haven't gotten this clear of a view of it up until now. And there is generally a very refreshing clarity to the material on this project, as Chaz really takes the opportunity to strip back many of the effects on his vocal performances here, and miking his voice so close it sounds like he's just literally in your ear. And there's certainly an intimacy to that, especially as Chaz is writing lyrics on these songs where he claims to be overcoming bouts with self-worth on the song Last Year. There are also some pretty interesting themes of loneliness and a need to connect on the tracks The Loop as well as Postman. And I gotta stay in the loop. Both of which are some of the catchiest and most fun songs this project has to offer, though not every moment in this track list is as direct, as there are quite a few pockets on this thing where Chaz spends time hitting listeners with these very surreal, psychedelic jams, like the intro track The Medium featuring Unknown Mortal Orchestra, which can run a little one-dimensional. Listening to it, I do feel like it could have used another layer, another detail, or some transitions of some sort, but still, there is a vivid heaviness and fuzz that I enjoy about it a lot. The song Deja Vu is another texturally titillating pocket of this thing. It's absolutely packed with all these squiggly synth bits and reversed guitar layers that hypnotically swell and fall away across the song. I also love the way these elements pair up with the track's harmonized bass lines and really loose drumming. And again, it's pretty interesting because there is something kind of trippy and surreal about the way this track is presented, but simultaneously, everything is so naked here. It's not like a wash in effects. It's not like sounding like it's on the other side of a drain pipe or anything like that. There's something really warm and clear, but also a little strange about it too. I also enjoyed the very gentle and multifaceted Foreplay, whose latter half flirts with some jazz-inspired melody runs too, occasionally swapping out with these really eerie, droning tones, as well as summary guitar chord changes that are pretty interesting. The jammy vibes come back around on the song Millennium, which features past Toro collaborators, the Matson 2, and this track aesthetically transitions from sweet twinkling bedroom disco to groovy drum improvs and a pretty quirky jazz synth solo. I wish the vocals had a stronger presence as they do over many tracks here, but this song still does add very positively to the eclectic mix of vibes across this track list, which I should say isn't just randomly thrown together, as Chaz does try to play a little theater of the mind with the progression of this LP, trying to portray this entire project as existing in the vehicle depicted on the front cover, or at least within a journey happening with it. Because as we move from track to track, we hear the engine running, radio switching dials, the engine starting up. Not to mention some of the songs on this thing transition into each other pretty smoothly too. So there is like a sense of direction and journey to the way this album progresses for sure. And while this concept doesn't exactly provide the strongest sense of place across the entire thing, I think it does lend these songs more cohesion than they would have otherwise. We have a pretty strong closer on this thing as well, which to me gives off some really strong soft rock vibes with the shiny keys and the super bright vocal harmonies. There is an absolutely insane psych rock guitar solo on the back end, along with some of those very strong drum fills and improvs that I mentioned earlier, which are just so pounding and hard. Like, I've never heard the drums go, some live drums go this hard on a Toro record previously. Now, with that being said, I don't feel like this record has the strongest start of any Toro project. Goes By So Fast, for example, is one of a few songs here that I think the tune being delivered in such a detached and passive way. It makes it succumb to just how slow and enveloping the sound of the instrumentation is. Something's definitely lost in translation there. I also heard more potential than what was delivered in the psychedelic blues of Mississippi, as the track does kind of cut out a little abruptly, and it would have been amazing for those blues influences to be, I think, embraced a little bit more boldly. The song Way Too Hot also, I think, could have been extended too. But overall, I think this is a very good album from Chaz. I implore you to not sleep on it. Some of my favorite songs and jams he's ever dropped land on this record. This thing is loaded with seriously catchy, sometimes funny, and usually colorful instrumentally highlights. Plus it has a kind of cute concept to boot. And as usual, I leave this album feeling excited to see what Chaz is going to try next, because every Toro record seems to be an adventure at this point. I'm feeling a decent 2 strong 7 on this one. Transition. Have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Toro y Moi, forever.